I smiled in photos, traveled the world, hosted events, and built our dreams. And under all those baby doll dresses and oversized t-shirts, I was carrying a secret because I was scared. Scared of losing the baby, scared of losing myself, scared of what people would say. This is the story of why I kept my first pregnancy a secret. No. Ooh, that's better, right, babe?
Yeah!
Yeah. She founded an architectural concrete company.
He founded a $100 million clothing company.
She took the world by storm as a social media star.
He took the world by storm as a famous serial entrepreneur.
Together we started a business.
And had babies.
Now we're figuring out the best ways to do both.
Join us as we learn from other entrepreneurs going through the same life struggles.
As they share their life hacks about success, love, kids,
and everything in between.
Sometimes the greatest blessings start in silence because God needed a quiet room to do a loud miracle. Some stories begin in secret, but end with the world seeing God's glory.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneur Parents Podcast. My name is Ildiko Ferenczi. Dan is still down, so here I am to carry the torch with all of you to myself. Today I'm opening up a chapter about my life that I only just this week shared with our private community. And it resonated so deeply with many of our parents. I thought, surely I am called to share it here with all of our beautiful friends today. So for months, nobody knew. Not my friends online, not my friends, and not even some of my family. I smiled in photos, traveled the world, hosted events, and built our dreams. And under all those baby doll dresses and oversized t-shirts, I was carrying a secret because I was scared. Scared of losing the baby, scared of losing myself, scared of what people would say. This is the story of why I kept my first pregnancy a secret and what God taught me in the silence. As many of you do know this, but some of you don't. It took us years to get pregnant, years of hope, heartbreak, and learning how to keep faith, but keep walking in faith when our hearts were weary. And when we finally accepted that maybe having children just wasn't going to be a part of our story, we turned our focus to business and to travel and to chase the next mountain of success together. And that's what we were doing. And life was pretty good. We distracted ourselves incredibly well. And then there was this night that we went to a Tony Robbins seminar, and we were basically asked to pray for the impossible, to put it out there and to write it down. And that night I did. I whispered, Lord, I buried this dream so deep that I can barely speak it. But if you still have a miracle left with my name on it, please let it be this. So I wrote a beautiful, powerful letter to my miracle baby, just so preciously written from my heart. And then we just kept going with our life. About a year later, I received the letter because we had to mail the letter off to ourselves. And then it came. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's so funny. That is so funny. But it sparked that thought again. So 2 years from that event, I don't know, we were traveling a lot and I felt like my body was just tired. I was so bloated and I felt something was just off. And I told myself, I need to have a cleanse, something. I got to clean out my body. Something's not right here. And then something else in my spirit nudged me and told me to take a test. You know, the test. And I knew I had several expired ones under the sink. So why not? I grabbed one of the tests and then another and another. I believe I took about 12. In total. And all of them were positive. I got in the car and I rushed down to the pharmacy, the drugstore, and I remember standing in line, shaking and crying and holding several boxes of tests. And the lady, the pharmacist, she looked at me and asked how she could help me. And I took the time to explain to her that I had some expired tests and I took them and I'm here because I need to buy new boxes because they were overdue and probably incorrect. And so it was necessary for me to take some current dated tests. And I remember that woman looked at me and smiled ever so gently and said something along the lines of, honey, if they're all overdue, then you're really, really pregnant. Congratulations. But I didn't tell anyone because I already walked through so much loss that, you know, when you go through something like this and you're finally pregnant after all of it, it's this joy, but also this fear. So I didn't tell anyone because as I said, I already walked through so much loss. My father as a child through divorce, my brother through a brutal tragedy, my best friend, and my mother, whose battle with an extremely serious cancer we were keeping secret, but, you know, we're flirting with, again, loss. And listen, my friends, my heart could not take one more goodbye. So I had to choose to protect my peace. This one miracle would be between me, my husband, and God. And nothing was going to change my mind about that. And at that time, our careers were thriving. I was booking like crazy, locking down massive deals. I was booking magazine covers, hosting red carpets. I was one of the top broadcasters in the entire world on one of the most popular platforms at that moment because I was sharing everything with my online community. It was so crazy. Just, you know, millions and millions and millions of they had these hearts, and the more hearts that you had, you would climb to the top. And I was literally in this top 5 on this new platform because I was ironically sharing every single detail of my life and journey. But the moment I found out that I was pregnant, fear whispered, if you share this, it'll all come crashing down. And honestly, some people around us confirmed that fear. My husband had slipped and told a couple people the news, And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I wish this on no one. During my very first ultrasound, you're listening to everything, the doctors, and just trying to hear everything. And my husband's phone rang, and I could just hear this cruel, awful voice on the other end saying, "It better not be a girl," and blah, 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 all this stuff. And honestly, my heart sank. Like, what kind of person says that? Who says that? Because deep down in that moment, I thought it was a girl. I truly thought it was a girl. I had even went down and bought this beautiful white frilly newborn dress that I showed my mom, and she said it was perfect. And that moment made me sick to my stomach. But it also gave me clarity, because I knew I could never trust those people with something this sacred, ever, 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 ever. And then I thank God that He'd told me to stay quiet, because I was so glad that nobody else knew. And I knew in that moment, like, nobody else is going to find out. Nobody else is going to find out. So I kept working, 6 months pregnant, 7 months. I was still doing shoots. And especially during that time, I wasn't going to tell anyone. Everything was healthy. I had a great OBGYN. And because the baby, it was my first baby. And I had 8-pack. I was so ripped. I really worked out so hard. So my belly was so tiny. But that's the other thing. I didn't want anyone to know, because I knew the first thing they were going to do was judge me about this. So I just kept working. 8 months, 9 months. 9 months, I hosted the Maxim red carpet at the Super Bowl in this red baby doll sequin dress. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. It was my secret. And I think the last event was speaking on a panel in New York, smiling and talking about community, this incredible community that I had, while carrying the greatest community I'd ever get to know: motherhood. Before you reach for that coffee, consider this. What if the energy boost you're looking for isn't in your cup, but in your cells? I challenge you to swap your morning coffee for Shilajit by Symbiotica. And here's what can happen. No crash, no jitters, just clean, sustained energy, plus mental clarity and trace minerals that our bodies actually need, that are actually starving for, to be honest. This isn't just a supplement. It's an ancient adaptogen sourced from the Himalayas that supports mitochondrial function, stamina, and overall vitality. Your coffee never did that. Okay, let's just be honest. Try it for a week and tell me your body doesn't thank you. Symbiotica's Shilajit is next level wellness, and honestly, you may never go back to drinking coffee. Click the link below down in the bio and get your Shilajit today. Parenting. The thing that I always wanted. The thing that I always wanted. And when we finally found out the gender, it wasn't a girl. It wasn't a girl, it was a boy. The son my husband had always dreamed of for us. And secretly the one I prayed for too, but I was almost too scared to say it out loud. And so I thought it was a girl, because it would have been too good if it was a boy. I'll never forget the joy that filled our home that day, the tears that ran down my husband's face and my face. It was so much deep joy. And the joy that filled my mother's heart, the peace that finally poured into my mother's heart after losing her son so tragically years ago. And how shortly after her cancer, we don't say that word, we say C word, began to heal naturally. even though they told her there was all these things that she needed to do. But I asked the doctor about it, and he said, only God knows. That's what Dr. Scott said, only God knows. And I believe that baby's joy, that promise fulfilled, became medicine for her soul. I'll never, ever forget it. I'll never forget it. God didn't just give us a child, he gave us healing. I never felt so much love and joy since my brother went to heaven. That painful, empty spot in my heart finally filling up. And I don't even know how to explain that. I really don't. But when someone you love, God, I loved him so much. When someone you really, really love passes away, it's like, I'm getting so emotional, my goodness. It's like a piece of you goes with them. I saw it from my mom. I'll never forget the day they closed the coffin, and I had to be strong for her, but when they closed the casket, she fainted. It's like a part of her soul went with him, and I felt it too. Give me the strength, God, because people need to hear this message. And after thinking that this part of my heart would be empty and painful forever, and fearing that same emptiness would be there for my mother. And I realized something else powerful. Sometimes the enemy will try to speak through people. Like that first time I ever had the ultrasound, the enemy will use cruel, jealous, and bitter voices meant to plant fear or doubt. But listen, God will always, and I'm going to say this again, God will always have the final word. So I really wanted a baby girl that day, and I truly believed it, but did he have a better plan? And listen, because while those voices tried to curse what they didn't understand, God was already writing a redemption story. Everybody in our family had secretly prayed for a boy. And that's exactly what we received. That's exactly what we received, because God knew what our hearts needed to heal. As I said, I had thought that I was having a girl, and I was so excited. I was so excited about that. Honestly, I really was. But now I see that God's plan was greater, that our son Daniel came first, so that his little sister, and that's a whole different podcast, because that is another incredible miracle story, let me tell you. Okay, let me tell you, because it was so hard to get pregnant this first time, and I can't wait to share that other. It's a totally different lesson, and a beautiful one. But our son came first, so his little sister would one day have a protector. So that she'd have a protector. And now when I see him with her, the way he watches over her, the way he defends her, the way she defends him, and the way they play and the way they laugh, it's like seeing flashes of my own childhood with my brother, and there's no better gift. There's no better gift. And God restored what I'd lost. Can you imagine that? He took pain and turned it into legacy. That's how good God is. Keeping a secret like that, like the one that I kept, it's heavy. It is. It's heavy. It's lonely. I was used to sharing everything with my audience. So I kind of felt like I was betraying them. Even at those panels and the interviews, a part of me felt like I was, I guess it felt like I was betraying them. But I was, I mean, how do I say it? I guess I was used to sharing everything with my audience. And then suddenly the silent felt like it was a wall between us. But then I learned something important, since silence isn't always secrecy, right? And I think I was feeling so guilty about maybe I'm keeping secrets, but sometimes it's secret. It's not secret. It's sacred protection. And I truly feel like I had that just this understanding that it was a sacred protection, because the world will always have opinions about your business, about, for me, my belly size being too small. I knew that was going to be an issue, about my timeline, but not every blessing is meant for public consumption. Some are meant for communion between you, God, and the people who you truly love. And it's okay. It's okay. And I would say that feeling of guilt and like I'm keeping secrets finally left after, as I sat there one night with my hand on my beautiful belly. What a blessing. What a blessing that was. And I felt the Holy Spirit whisper, you're not hiding your pregnancy. You're holding it sacred. And it just gave me everything I needed. And I realized we all have some seasons when God grows us quietly. Seasons where he hides us, not to punish us, but to protect us. So there was that moment of confirmation when I think back with the evil voices that I could hear through the phone. It's like, okay, that instinct, that thought to not share, that was the right thing to do. I didn't need to share it with the world. I didn't need to share it with those people, because it made me literally, if I felt like my heart was going to shatter. And then if I would have had people judge my belly and the bait, I don't think that I was meant to carry that pain, or, if something would have happened, I didn't need that. God knew that I didn't need that. I had enough in my life that I had to deal with. And this was just something that was sweet that I could keep to myself and protect, and just, it was such a blessing. And here's the thing, friends, before God reveals you, he refines you. Luke 1:45 reminds us, blessed is she who believed that the Lord would fulfill his promises to her. After my son was born, I realized I hadn't lost myself at all, because that was another thing I was worried about. I'd just been reborn into the next chapter of who I was meant to be. And as mothers, we know this. We can definitely say this, that when our baby takes their first breath, I mean, obviously we have a living baby inside of us, but there's that reality check when that baby takes that first breath. And were we ever praying hard? Because when my son first came out, he wasn't crying. He was very still, and his neck was turned to the side, and he was He was blue. And it was my first baby, so I didn't know if this was normal. I mean, in movies, the babies cry. The babies cry. What's going on? And I could just remember every second feeling heavier and heavier. And I just, to the moment where I said, "Is my son okay?" I remember yelling, and they didn't lie to me either. They didn't say he was okay, but I could see them frantically working. I looked at my husband. He was worried, and I just remember praying so hard, please, God, let him take that first breath. Please, God. And finally, after what felt forever, I could hear his sweet little cry. And just in that moment, a new me was born. That's when my mother self was born. So I mean, a lot of you may have not experienced that bit of trauma, but with your baby's first breath, the way that it's supposed to happen or you imagine would happen, a new you is born. So it's like the past me, it's gone. Now this new me was born with the first breath of my beautiful son. And then also, after this moment, somehow I ended up booking more, not less. And I remember being so scared. People could be so cruel, because before I got pregnant, I remember people saying, it's a blessing. Sometimes when I'd share that I really wanted to have children, they'd say it's a blessing. You're going to lose your body. Your career will crash and all these things. But this time I booked more, not less. And then this time I carried a peace instead of pressure. And this is going to be another podcast of how everything actually changed after my daughter. And again, God's plan. But I was still thinking, I'm going to go back to the stuff that I did before baby. And I did. And my husband too. But then we also created some new stuff along the way, new businesses. But it's just such a crazy story too, such a beautiful awakening, I would say. So listen, it carries us to the end of this podcast. And if you're listening right now, and if you're in your own hidden season, which many of our parents that I shared this story with are, that they're going through some stuff. Maybe it's a baby, a business, or a dream quietly growing. Please hear me. What's unseen isn't unimportant. God often does his greatest work in the dark. You don't owe anyone your timeline or your reveal. Never feel guilty, okay? Follow your gut, follow your heart, pray over it. You owe your peace, your focus. Almost lost. It's like an emotional roller coaster, like reliving it. So yeah. The seed doesn't apologize for being underground, does it, friends? It's just getting ready to bloom. And when that bloom comes, it will be undeniable that it was God who made it grow. So if this story touched your heart, if it pulled on something deep inside you, share it with someone God places on your heart. Let them know that they're loved and that they're seen, and that their quiet season is holy ground. When they receive this from you, they're going to know how much you care about them. And that's a beautiful thing, because sometimes the greatest miracles are the ones we protect in silence until God says, now it's time to tell the world. Now it's time to tell the world. So thank you so much for joining me here at the Entrepreneur Parents Podcast. And I hope this story reminds you that you are not behind and you are being hidden for a reason. Or you're hiding that special something beneath your heart for a reason. Protection. And when God reveals what He's been doing in your life, it will take your breath away. God bless you. We love you, and we'll see you soon. Before God reveals you, He refines you. And you're not hiding your miracle. You're holding it sacred. He gave me not just a child, He gave us healing. And the seed doesn't apologize for being underground. Remember that. It's just because it's getting ready to bloom. God bless you guys. I'll see you next time, and have an incredible week.
Thank you so much, guys, for listening to this Entrepreneur Parents Podcast. If today's story moved you, make sure to follow, smash that subscribe button, and leave a 5-star review. It helps more families just like yours find hope, healing, and purpose. And hey, if you have been learning and growing with us, you can even buy us a coffee to help the message going strong. Just tap the link in the show notes, and it's your way of saying, let's keep a good thing going. Don't worry, we don't drink coffee. It's just the name of the website. buymeacoffee.com/entrepreneurkids. God bless. See you next week. We're so grateful you're part of this legacy building family. Don't forget to share this episode with another parent who needs encouragement today. Together, we're not just raising children, we're raising world changers. We love you all. Keep leading with love, building with faith. And remember, the greatest legacies start at home. See you guys next